Hey everyone, welcome back to Anime Octopus. Today we're continuing with part 3 of our What If Naruko Became the 10 Tails Jinchūriki series. Before we dive in, here's a quick disclaimer: the content on this channel is created for entertainment and discussion purposes only. I do not own any of the anime footage featured in this video. All rights and credits go to their respective creators and copyright holders. Now, let's get started. A month had passed since Naruko had met the two women in the Forest of Reflection. True to what she had been told, she did not know the forest's formal name, nor had she expected shinobi to train there. Until then she had never encountered anyone within its shaded reaches. She had always assumed people avoided the forest because it could become quite dim beneath the canopy and because the flora and fauna there were unfamiliar. On occasion Naruko could sense nearby people, but usually only those skirting the forest's edge. They rarely ventured in, which suited her well. She preferred solitude. Over the past month she had intensified her training in sensory perception. She meditated for long periods, sharpened her taijutsu through repeated practice, and then went out to gather food, testing herself against whatever curious or territorial animals she encountered. This morning was warm in Konohagakure, but the trees had a cooling effect that Naruko appreciated. She headed toward the secluded waterfall she had come to rely on, a spring high on the mountain whose outflow fed the stream and river below. Reaching it required a climb, and the path was fringed with boulders and thorny bushes. Naruko disliked seeing the thorns, not because they impeded travel, but because she cared for the natural world and tried to preserve it whenever possible. Whether gentle or challenging, she felt at ease among the trees. As she walked, she also practiced extending her awareness. Her sensing had become fine-tuned. If she wanted, she could broaden it enough to cover much of Konoha. She chose not to. The village contained memories she preferred not to revisit. Instead she kept her focus local. She had felt another presence shadowing her for several minutes, distinct by its unique chakra signature. Rather than springing into action as she sometimes would, Naruko maintained a steady pace toward the falls. When she judged it appropriate, she stopped and turned. Her voice was calm as she crossed her arms and addressed the figure perched above her on a branch. "Lady, you may stop now. I do not know why you are following me. If you are here to cause trouble, speak plainly." A soft gasp betrayed surprise. The woman descended and stepped into view, the red-eyed woman Naruko had seen before. "That was unexpected," the visitor admitted, attempting to compose herself. "How did you know you were being followed?" Naruko tilted her head slightly. "Do you not have sensors in your village?" she asked, meeting the woman's gaze. The woman's expression flickered between astonishment and shy amusement. "Why, you're a sensor? How? Who trained you?" she blurted, assuming instruction had been involved. "First, yes, I am a censor. Second, you need not ask who trained me. I do not know your name or your motive for following me," Naruko replied evenly. "If you would, explain why you observed me these last few minutes." The red-eyed woman's features softened. She had been prepared to see hostility, but instead of anger she found concern. She introduced herself gently. "I am Yuhi Kurenai. I was only ensuring you were safe. The last time we met, you mentioned you live within these woods. I had no intention of alarming you." Naruko assessed her and found the smile sincere. She inclined her head in return, a small courtesy her sensei had insisted upon. "It is a pleasure to meet you formally, Kurenai-san," she said. "My name is Uzumaki Naruko." At the sound of Naruko's family name, Kurenai's eyes widened. She covered her mouth in surprise and briefly stumbled, as if unsteady with emotion. "Naruko? Uzumaki Naruko?" she murmured, more to herself than to Naruko. Tears collected at her lashes as recognition and memory rose to the surface. Naruko watched, uncertain. Kurenai steadied herself and managed a small, controlled smile. "You don't know me, and this may feel sudden," she said, wiping at her cheeks, "but I knew your mother." The revelation struck Naruko with gentle curiosity rather than shock. "You knew my mother?" she asked. "How is that?" Kurenai took a moment and then spoke with quiet affection. "When I was younger, your mother was a cherished friend. She taught me many things, not formally as a sensei, but as someone I admired and relied upon. Her name was Uzumaki Kushina. She was remarkable in her time." She paused, steadying her voice. "I realize this may be a lot to take in." Naruko listened, composed. "You don't need to apologize, Kurenai-san," she said. "I am aware of my heritage. As for how I learned, there are some things I prefer to keep private." Kurenai's expression shifted to a mixture of relief and sorrow. "I understand. You may not wish to speak of it. I should say, however, that my friends and I feared something terrible had happened to you when we couldn't find you. Hokage-sama himself searched for you. We had no trace and became worried. Naruko's eyes narrowed slightly. A younger version of herself, the one who had been pushed aside by others, simmered beneath her calm exterior. People were unkind to me, she replied, voice steady but constrained. Once, I was chased from a place I had been living. I found refuge in this forest because I had nowhere else to go. I do not believe many looked for me then. That's why your words feel unfamiliar. Kurenai's face crumpled with regret. She had not known the hardship Naruko had endured, and the knowledge weighed heavily on her. I am truly sorry, Naruko. I regret that we failed to find you. I was often away on missions and did not have the time I wished to, yet that is no excuse. I wish I had done more. Naruko listened to the apology without interrupting. The shared emotion in Kurenai's voice seemed genuine rather than performative, and that mattered. After a moment, Naruko asked quietly, "What did people call me?" Kurenai flinched, then answered with tenderness. "They used unkind nicknames. I cannot imagine how that felt for you." Naruko gave a faint, rueful smile. "I do not hold on to those words anymore. They reflect others' fears, not who I am." Kurenai's tears fell again, this time in a gentler rhythm, and she fought to compose herself. "I do not deserve your trust yet," she said softly. "I know we were not there for you when you needed us. I cannot ask for immediate forgiveness, but, if you will allow it, may I be your friend?" The question moved Naruko. It was not framed as a demand or a promise, it was an honest offer. She felt the familiar presence inside herself that had taught her to seek connection, and she recognized the sincerity in Kurenai's tone. For a child who had long assumed isolation was inevitable, the simple request to be seen and accepted had profound meaning. Naruko considered it a moment, then allowed a small smile to brighten her face. The prospect of friendship, simple and steady, was something she had wanted for a long time. She nodded once in agreement. "Yes," she replied, voice soft but sure. "We can be friends." Kurenai's face lit with relief and gratitude, and together they stood beneath the dappled light, the sound of the waterfall nearby marking a gentle new beginning. Naruko paused for a few moments to think, and Kurenai did not mind the silence at all. To her, it showed that Naruko was carefully considering what she had asked. Soon, however, Kurenai noticed something Naruko had been trying to hold back for a long time. Even though she told herself to stay strong, her body betrayed her feelings, and tears welled up behind the genjutsu covering her eyes. Kurenai's heart softened. Acting on instinct, she gently moved closer, knelt slightly, and pulled Naruko into a kind embrace. Naruko froze at first, uncertain of how to react, but the tears flowed freely now. Kurenai felt her small frame tremble in her arms, yet she did not let go. "Please, Naruko-chan. Give me a chance to be your friend. I may not fully understand your hardships, but I want you to know this is no trick," Kurenai said softly, her own eyes moist with unshed tears. She kept her composure, holding Naruko with warmth and care. It felt like forever before Naruko finally returned the hug, her sobs quiet but filled with relief. "Oh okay, Kurenai-san. We can be friends," she whispered. Hearing that, Kurenai hugged her just a little tighter, though carefully so as not to hurt her. "Thank you," Kurenai said gently as they slowly released each other. She did not realize that in this very moment, she had become Naruko's very first true friend, and the first person Naruko could ever recall hugging her out of genuine care. Straightening herself, Kurenai looked kindly at the young girl before her. "Would you mind if I spent the day with you? I'd love the chance to know you better, if that's all right," she asked politely, hoping she wasn't moving too quickly. Naruko gave a small smile and nodded. "Sure, I don't mind. I was on my way to wash up, but that can wait for now," she admitted, still uncertain about the idea of friendship but curious enough to try. Deep inside, she remained a little cautious, worried that trusting too soon might backfire, but Kurenai's presence already felt different. Kurenai noticed the torn clothes and smudges of dirt and felt a quiet pang of sympathy. "If you'd like, you can go ahead and clean up first. I don't mind waiting," she offered kindly. Naruko thought for a moment, then nodded again with a slight smile. "Okay. I'll be quick," she said, feeling a strange but pleasant eagerness to spend more time with this woman. Maybe this is what friendship feels like? She wondered. The voice of the Jubi spoke gently within her. "She is a kind soul. I'm glad you have found someone you can trust besides me. Perhaps she could even train with you, you need a sparring partner after all. In time, we will also speak about your heritage in Uzushiogakur, where your mother came from." Naruko set those thoughts aside and continued walking, climbing a steep wall using chakra. Kurenai followed, amazed at her skill. Either she was taught by someone, or she taught herself. Incredible, Kurenai thought, quickly catching up. Mind if I come along? She asked with a smile. Naruko nodded, welcoming the company. They soon arrived at a hidden waterfall, a place Naruko cherished. The path had been tricky, filled with thorny bushes, but Naruko had asked Kurenai not to damage them. She loved nature and wanted to protect the beauty of her secret spot. Kurenai smiled at this small but meaningful glimpse into Naruko's heart. Naruko then washed up, while Kurenai respectfully turned her back to give her privacy. Using her own clever chakra control, Naruko dried herself after finishing and called out, "I'm done, Kurenai-san." When Kurenai turned, she saw Naruko now cleaner, though her clothes still bore some wear. She thought to herself how strong and independent this girl must be, and her admiration for her only grew. Naruko spoke nervously, I don't really know how friendship works. But would you maybe like to spar with me? I'm practicing taijutsu, and it would help to have someone to train with. You don't have to if you don't want to, she added quickly. Kurenai was surprised but touched. Though taijutsu was not her strongest art, she knew enough to support Naruko in training. Of course, Naruko. I'd be glad to spar with you, she answered warmly. Naruko led her to an open area within the forest that resembled a small training ground. They faced each other, each settling into their stances. Kurenai recognized her own position, but Naruko's unusual stance intrigued her. That's an interesting form, Naruko. What is it called? Kurenai asked. Naruko smiled. I'll tell you after we're done sparring. It's still incomplete for now, she replied. With that, they began. At first, Kurenai held back so as not to overwhelm her young friend, but she quickly realized Naruko's skill was far greater than she expected. Naruko's movements were sharp and precise, and her stamina seemed endless. You're remarkable, Naruko, Kurenai thought as they exchanged strikes and counters, each testing the other. The spar became lively, yet it was filled not with hostility but with mutual respect and learning. Before long, the sun began to dip low, casting the forest in golden light. Neither had noticed how much time had passed, both too absorbed in the joy of their practice and the growing bond between them. When she called for the sparring session to end, Kurenai began to breathe deeply, finally realizing just how exhausted she truly was from their training. She glanced at Naruko and noticed that she wasn't even sweating, which brought a small smile to her face. She really is your daughter, Kushina-sensei. Her stamina may even surpass yours, Kurenai thought to herself before speaking for the first time in hours. That was quite the sparring match, Naruko. You're incredibly strong, and I'm glad you live here in the village. Thank you for today, this was an experience I won't soon forget. I don't think I've ever felt this tired before, she admitted while catching her breath. Naruko smiled softly in return. I had a wonderful time too, Kurenai-san. Thank you for training with me, and for everything else. This might sound a little unusual, and I wasn't planning to share it yet, but I feel I can now, Naruko said warmly. Throughout their sparring, she had sensed nothing but good intentions from Kurenai. Naruko couldn't read her exact emotions, but she could tell Kurenai had never truly wished to hurt her, even while fighting with full effort. Kurenai's strikes had been controlled, firm but never cruel, and Naruko appreciated that deeply. With those thoughts in her mind, Naruko's smile grew brighter. Thank you for being my very first friend. Hearing this, Kurenai felt a pang of sadness that Naruko had gone so long without companionship, but also joy at being chosen as her first true friend. That made her heart feel a little lighter, even as she reflected on all she had learned today. No, Naruko. Thank you for allowing me the honor of being your friend, even though I sometimes feel I don't deserve it, Kurenai replied gently as she stepped closer. She stopped in front of Naruko and met her gaze with a small smile. I have a mission tomorrow that may last a week or two. But I promise I'll be back once it's finished. While I'm away, you may meet someone dear to me, Mitarashi Anko. She's one of my closest friends. If you cross paths with her, perhaps you'll decide to form another friendship. For now, though, I'll say goodnight. Stay safe, Naruko. I'll see you soon. With that, Kurenai vanished in a swirl of leaves before Naruko could respond. She knew that if she lingered, she might not resist the urge to embrace Naruko, and she didn't want to make her feel uncomfortable so early in their friendship. Naruko stood quietly, eyes closed, sensing Kurenai's chakra moving away through the forest. She was grateful for everything that had happened that day, though being left alone again made her feel a little sad and uncertain. She knew that Jubi was always with her, but the warmth of having someone offer her kindness and friendship felt entirely different. Deep down, she realized she wanted more of that feeling, even if she wasn't ready to let people into her heart too quickly. Still, she resolved to give Kurenai a chance to truly become her friend. She also remembered that Kurenai had forgotten to ask about her taijutsu style, perhaps that conversation would come the next time they met. Later, Naruko went deeper into the forest to gather food. She prepared what she found carefully and cooked it over a small fire she built herself. Enjoying the meal, she felt thankful for the skills she had gained to take care of herself. As she rested afterward, her thoughts returned to her new friend, and to the other woman Kurenai had mentioned. She wondered what kind of person Anko might be. With those thoughts in mind, she drifted peacefully into sleep, content with the day she had experienced. Inside her dreamscape, Naruko appeared atop one of the Jubi's great tails, gazing into the enormous eye of the majestic creature. "Jubi-sensei, earlier you mentioned I should travel to Uzushiogakur. Why is that?" she asked with curiosity. The Jubi remained silent for a few moments before answering. "Your training has progressed well, young one. I believe you are ready to learn more about your eyes and their abilities, should you choose. Your mother's homeland, Uzushiogakur, is secluded and isolated, an ideal place for you to train without interruption. Long ago, when the village was attacked, many tried to access one of their vaults. None succeeded. But you, as an Uzumaki, may have a chance. It is uncertain, but worth exploring." Naruko's eyes shone with excitement at the thought. Not only would she continue to learn, but she would also see the land of her ancestors, even if it lay in ruins. "When should I go?" she asked eagerly. "As soon as you can," the Jubi advised. "But first, tell your new friend about your plans. It would be unkind for her to return and find you gone. You also wish to become a shinobi, yes? Ask her about the academy. From what I recall, it is the path you must take to pursue that goal." Naruko nodded thoughtfully. She knew the time would come to step out of the forest and reveal herself to more than just the two women she had met. For now, though, she felt grateful for the Jubi's guidance. "Good night, Jubi-sensei," she said softly before allowing her mind to rest, her heart full of dreams about the adventures that awaited her. The following morning arrived sooner than Yuhi Kurenai would have preferred, as she was still unsettled from the events of the previous day. Rising from her bed, she moved slowly through her routine, knowing that her mission was scheduled for 10 a.m., and the clock had only just passed 8. She began with a refreshing shower before preparing a quick breakfast, still wrapped in a towel. After finishing her cereal, Kurenai headed toward her room to dress, only to pause when an unexpected knock echoed from her window. Puzzled, she frowned. None of her friends would arrive so early, especially not at her home, unless there was something urgent. Cautiously, she drew back the curtain and her eyes widened in surprise. Without hesitation, she opened the window. "Naruko? What are you doing here? And how did you find me?" she asked, still startled to see her young friend outside so early. Only after speaking did she recall Naruko's natural talent for sensing others, which explained how she had tracked her down. "I'm sorry for bothering you so early, Kurenai-san," Naruko replied politely, rubbing the back of her head. "I just wanted to let you know that I'll be leaving Konoha for a while. Since you'll be on a mission today, I didn't want you to return and worry about where I'd gone." Kurenai blinked, taken aback. "Leaving? Where are you going, and for how long?" she asked, concern coloring her expression. It warmed Naruko's heart. She wasn't used to anyone truly worrying about her, aside from her teachers. "I'm heading to my mother's homeland," Naruko explained. "I don't know how long I'll be gone. I want to train there, away from curious eyes. If I try to practice here, I might be discovered before I'm ready." Kurenai studied her for a moment, then nodded slowly. "I understand. Just promise me you'll be careful. I know I can't stop you, and I know you're strong, but strength isn't everything. Come back soon, Naruko. I meant what I said yesterday, I'm your friend." Naruko's expression softened into a small smile. She bowed lightly. "Thank you, Kurenai-san. I'll be careful, I promise. And I'll return as soon as I finish my training." Then, as though remembering something important, she added, "Oh, do you know when the academy accepts new students? I'd like to apply." Kurenai tapped her chin thoughtfully. "Most children enter at 8, though some begin at 9. Any older and you might have to work harder to catch up on the basics. In your case, you'll need to speak with Hokage-sama directly since you don't have parents to register you." Naruko's smile faltered slightly. She didn't look forward to that conversation, but she knew it was inevitable. "All right. Thank you again, Kurenai-san. I'll let you get back to preparing for your mission. And please stay safe." Kurenai's lips curved into a faint smile as Naruko leapt away, leaving her gazing at the window in quiet thought. Closing the curtains once more, she whispered to herself, "Don't worry, Naruko. I'll be careful. And thank you. With that, she prepared to meet her team, still wondering what kind of training awaited the spirited girl in her mother's homeland. Meanwhile, Naruko quickly reached the outer wall of Konoha. With the guidance of her sensei, she launched herself gracefully over it, avoiding the protective barrier seals that tracked who entered and exited. Her keen awareness ensured no one spotted her departure. Moving swiftly from branch to branch, Naruko set her sights on Uzushio no Sato. Excitement filled her heart as she journeyed toward the land of her heritage, eager for the new knowledge and growth awaiting her there. It took Naruko 4 days to finally reach the ocean, where she intended to find a way across by boat toward Uzushio. However, the Jubi reassured her that she did not need a vessel, for it would guide her across the waters itself. To any ordinary shinobi, such a feat would be unthinkable. Even the most talented Kage would struggle to maintain their strength over such a vast distance, especially with the endless waves and powerful currents. Although water walking was possible through chakra, the sheer distance and the restless ocean made the journey nearly impossible. Before reaching the island, even the most skilled shinobi would have their chakra reserves drained, and the raging waves would test the precision of their control. To make matters even more difficult, the island had earned its name Uzu for a reason. It was completely encircled by enormous whirlpools, strong enough to swallow ships that tried to approach. Naruko understood the challenge well, though she also knew she possessed extraordinary chakra reserves and remarkable control, enhanced further by the gifts of her dojutsu. Child, the Jubi spoke with patience, I do not think you truly understand the depth of your chakra. It is not only your own, but also mine, and it continues to grow stronger and denser every day. To put this in shinobi terms, your chakra surpasses even the combined energy of the entire land of fire. Naruko froze in place, eyes wide with astonishment at what she had just heard. She knew the Jubi would not say such words lightly. Wow. That's incredible, Jubi-sensei, Naruko finally responded, looking at her hands glowing faintly with the flow of her chakra. She hoped she would one day learn more about her eyes and absorb all that her teacher was willing to share. Encouraged, Naruko took her first steps onto the water. What no other person dared to attempt, she now faced head-on. She sprinted across the waves toward the island of her ancestors, all the while keeping her senses sharp to ensure no one was following her, a habit that made the Jubi quietly proud. Unknown location. Far away, 12 figures appeared in a circle, each as a flickering hologram. Every individual looked distinct, yet all radiated an air of seriousness. Among them stood the masked man, his single Sharingan visible, positioned beside the mysterious, plant-like being called Zetsu. Unlike previous gatherings, this meeting carried visible tension. The masked man and 2 spiky-haired members displayed clear frustration, the masked man's fists clenching in restrained anger. Why has no one discovered the whereabouts of the bijou? If they had resurfaced, there should have been signs by now. Has anyone uncovered useful information, either about them or about the special tool we require? The masked man demanded in a stern tone. One of the spiky-haired shinobi answered first, standing beside a long-haired woman and a man with equally flowing hair. We have found nothing, no traces, no chakra residue, nothing at all. Even the remnants of chakra collected by others over the years have simply vanished. His voice carried both seriousness and frustration. For the tool we require, no individual has shown any ability to awaken it, nor do your clansmen appear capable of unlocking it. I even attempted again with the samples I gathered, but the results remain the same, completely ineffective, Zetsu added, his white and black halves speaking alternately. The white half sounded overly eager, while the black half remained entirely calm. And what of my clan? The masked man asked, setting aside the other concerns. Have they agreed to stand with me, or do some still resist the truth of our cause? Zetsu responded carefully. That is complicated. The Hokage is already aware of the internal tensions. Uchiha Itachi serves as a double agent, reporting directly to him. Convincing Fugaku will not be easy, as he trusts Itachi completely. Furthermore, Itachi himself is becoming remarkably powerful. His closest friend, Uchiha Shisui, recently entrusted him with his eyes, granting him the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. In addition, Itachi may now possess Shisui's unique genjutsu, the Koto Amatsukami. I also discovered that Danzo attempted to seize Shisui's eyes but was forced to flee when Itachi intervened. That is everything I could uncover from my time within Konoha. The group exchanged looks, each of them aware of how serious the situation had become. The masked figure spoke with quiet certainty. I anticipated the elder would falter, but not in this way. Our focus now must be to persuade Itachi to align with us. Leave that to me. The only woman in the group, her voice soft yet commanding, raised the question everyone silently carried. What is our next step, Toby? With the tailed beast gone and the Rinnegan beyond our reach, how are we to proceed? Should we continue as before, or do you have a new strategy? For now, we remain concealed, gather resources, and let our plans unfold slowly, the masked man replied. When Itachi joins us, our path will become clearer. Konoha will steadily lose its strength. With that, the gathering dispersed. Each member departed on personal errands while discreetly working to fund their organization. The chamber soon emptied, leaving behind only faint traces of ceiling symbols glowing on the floor before fading into stillness. Konohagakure. Beneath the village in a hidden base, 3 elders sat together. The one in the center bore bandages across an arm and over an eye. Before them knelt Uchiha Itachi, eldest son of his clan's head. Itachi, when does your father intend for this plan to begin? Asked the bandaged elder, his tone completely flat. My father is hesitant. He suspects Hokage-sama has prepared countermeasures. My mother, however, wishes no part in this, and several clansmen share her view, Itachi explained, though his thoughts drifted elsewhere, remembering what his late friend had confessed to him about the masked attacker. Inform Fugaku that Root will support him. Encourage him to rally those who still hesitate, Danzo replied, his expression unreadable though his inner thoughts burned with frustration. Shisui's gift should have been mine. Whatever became of those eyes, I will uncover it. He dismissed Itachi, masking his emotions beneath his usual composure. Once Itachi had gone, another elder spoke uneasily. Danzo, do you believe Hiruzen has countermeasures in place? Hiruzen is blind to this, Danzo responded calmly. He suspects nothing. After relocating the Uchiha following the Nine Tails incident, he lost interest. Fugaku's resentment, however, has only grown, and it presents my opportunity. I will secure the title of Hokage. None of them noticed the black crow concealed in the shadows, silently observing before vanishing without a trace. Later, in a chamber beneath the Hokage tower, Itachi awaited. 2 figures entered, the third Hokage, Sarutobi Hiruzen, and Kakashi Hatake. Itachi, Hiruzen greeted, seating himself on a sofa while the torchlight flickered warmly. What news do you bring? You mentioned something of great importance. With calm composure, Itachi bowed. Hokage-sama, my father and Danzo still intend to proceed. They do not know I serve as a double agent. Activating his eyes, he revealed the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. Both Hiruzen and Kakashi inhaled sharply. This evolved form was entrusted to me, Itachi explained solemnly. Before Shisui passed, he gifted me his eyes and the ability of Koto Amatsukami. With my mother's help, we concealed this from father. Danzo was the one who sought Shisui's gift, but Shisui's trust remains with me. Hiruzen's gaze darkened as he processed the revelation. Danzo's ambitions have gone too far. We will address this in due time. For now, you and Kakashi must ensure the safety of the village. Protect those uninvolved, especially the children. When the time comes, we will confront Danzo directly. The 2 shinobi nodded, understanding the weight of their mission. A week later. Far away, Naruko finally reached the distant island of Uzushiogakure. The journey had been long and relentless. She had run tirelessly across open waters, leaping waves and relying on her prepared food stored in a small pouch. Despite exhaustion, she pressed forward with unwavering determination. At last, the whirlpools guarding the island appeared before her. Remembering her clan's legacy, Naruko wondered if they would recognize her. Channeling chakra into her hand, she reached toward the waters. To her relief, the turbulent current stilled just long enough for her to cross. Once she stepped onto the island's shore, the whirlpools returned behind her, sealing the way. Venturing deeper, she found the once proud gates of Uzu weathered and broken. The village lay in ruins, walls crumbled, streets overtaken by nature. Yet amid the desolation stood one large structure, marked with the Uzumaki spiral. Naruko entered the building, its door long fallen. Inside, she discovered a hidden staircase concealed behind an ancient bookshelf. Following it down, she came to a vast underground corridor ending in massive stone doors carved with intricate seals. Her heart quickened. She had found the entrance to her clan's hidden vault. As Naruko proceeded, she discovered scattered personal effects and discarded Hittite, evidence that the place had once been occupied by others, though she found no sign of anyone still living there. The corridor itself appeared to be designed with safeguards, yet these mechanisms remained inert as she approached the great stone doors. Perhaps they've grown too old to operate, she wondered, or maybe this place recognizes Uzumaki lineage, as she paused before the massive double doors carved with intricate motifs. At the center of the doors was the Uzumaki clan emblem, a spiral, and directly above it an inscription read, "Only an Uzumaki may pass." Unsure of the proper protocol, Naruko pressed her palm to the emblem. A gentle warmth radiated from the stone beneath her hand and then faded. She waited, and when nothing occurred she tried again, this time concentrating. She extended a trace of chakra from within and allowed it to flow through her hand into the seal. She felt a subtle tug, as if something within the door acknowledged her presence. A calm, resonant voice filled her mind, the vast entity that had guided her. "It requires your chakra as well as your lineage, young one," it said. Naruko rested her entire hand on the spiral and channeled the smallest amount of chakra necessary. The seal accepted it, and the pull strengthened. Gradually, the heavy doors began to part, their motion deliberate and stately. Candles positioned along the passageway kindled themselves as the doors opened, casting a warm, steady light. Unperturbed by the illumination, Naruko stepped inside. When she reached the far side, her eyes widened in awe. "Oh, my goodness! So many books," she whispered, her usual reserve giving way to genuine astonishment. Shelves upon shelves rose around her, an archive far more extensive than the modest public library she had once explored in secret. Interspersed among the volumes were countless scrolls. "This is paradise for anyone who loves books," she murmured, a smile brightening her face. The guiding presence observed her delight with quiet amusement, an echo of something like fondness, knowing how much of Naruko's childhood had been taken from her. The entity allowed Naruko an hour to explore. During that time she uncovered shelves devoted to fuinjutsu, ninjutsu, taijutsu, genjutsu, and numerous specialized disciplines, techniques and treatises that mapped the craft of a shinobi in exhaustive detail. How the library had amassed such a collection remained a mystery, but Naruko felt no need to question its provenance. These were heirlooms of her clan and thus part of her inheritance. After an hour the entity gently called her back. "Young one, we have much to accomplish while we are here. I would like you to begin with fuinjutsu. Rest now, your body requires sleep, you have not had proper rest in some time." Obedient and grateful for the guidance, Naruko ate a simple repast from her pack and then found a quiet corner to sleep. As she closed her eyes, she heard the doors close behind her with a resonant thud. A soft light emanated from the doors and seemed to spread through the chamber. The guiding presence, speaking from a memory of ancient procedures, was clearly pleased. "That light is a seal," it explained as Naruko drifted toward sleep. "It conceals the chakra of everyone within its bounds from those outside. I wished for you to experience that first, before we proceed to your ocular training. When you have regained your strength, we will begin." By morning Naruko rose at her customary hour. The candles were still lit. She finished the modest provisions she had and felt marginally better, enough to stand and move. Perhaps there is sustenance within these scrolls, she speculated aloud with a touch of hopeful humor, recalling that scrolls sometimes contained instructions for storing provisions. If not, she reasoned, she would find other ways to gather food. She remembered the entity's instructions and began searching for an appropriate training space. It did not take long. Adjacent to the stacks she found a large chamber marked with the same sigils that denoted sealed boundaries. A number of additional seals were arrayed about the room, but their details were not the focus for now. "Let us converse, young one. It is time to reveal the full scope of your dojutsu," the entity intoned. Naruko seated herself in a meditative posture and entered the mindscape she had grown accustomed to. There she found the immense presence before her, and once more she was struck by its monumental scale. "This will be extensive," the entity began, and for a few moments allowed Naruko to settle into readiness. "First, the Sharingan aspect, indicated by the tomoe appearing in your eyes." She already possessed a basic familiarity with the Sharingan and the Rinnegan from earlier lessons, but now the explanation deepened. "There are several stages," the entity explained, "the fully matured form with 3 tomoe per eye, the Mangekyo Sharingan, an advanced manifestation, and the eternal Mangekyo, the culminating refinement." The entity described how each progression confers different capabilities and how certain advanced forms are traditionally rare and difficult to attain. Naruko listened intently as the entity continued. Unlike ordinary practitioners, she was told, she possessed an unusually broad set of faculties, multiple unique abilities manifested within her ocular power, far exceeding typical expectations. The entity paused, then advised that detailed mastery of particular Sharingan techniques could be supplemented by the Uchiha and Konoha, who could provide instruction on conventional aspects. "You may have guessed the next topic," Naruko ventured. "The Rinnegan?" "You guessed correctly," the entity replied. "The Rinnegan is more complex. It enumerated the classical paths, Tendo, Deva, Shurato, Asura, Ninjendo, human, Shikushoto, Animal, Gakido, Preta, and Jigakudo, Naruko, noting that the Sage of Six Paths had been granted access to those six. The entity added that Naruko's eyes contained additional capacities beyond the traditional set. Two further paths it described as Jikondo, Time Path, and Juryo-kudo, Gravity Path, powers the entity had reserved for very few. The mentor cautioned that possessing such faculties did not grant immediate mastery. These paths demand sustained study and disciplined training, it advised. I have also provided a potential evolution of your Rin Sharingan, an advancement that will become available only when you awaken your final Tomoe. That evolved form is the surprise I have promised. Naruko lowered her gaze, palms folded in her lap. For the first time in that session she spoke, voice hesitant but sincere.
I am grateful for your trust, Jubi-sensei.
I don't feel worthy of such gifts. I worry about the burden of power. A gentle amusement warmed the entity's tone. You feel as any thoughtful steward of power would, it said. That is precisely why I chose you. This world has taken much from you without recompense. I do not grant my power lightly, and I chose you because you are not just anyone. You are worthy, Uzumaki Naruko. I name you my heir. The entity rose, an imposing, dignified motion that filled the mindscape, and held Naruko aloft on one of its great tails, a symbolic gesture that conveyed both expectation and faith. Naruko could only gaze at the immense entity before her, tears streaming down her cheeks as emotions overwhelmed her. She didn't know what words could possibly capture the feelings in her heart. The Jubi, however, felt nothing but admiration and pride for the young girl standing before her. Naruko was the first person ever to be acknowledged by the Ten Tails. It took Naruko several minutes to calm her sobs. Finally, she managed to whisper softly, her voice filled with determination. Thank you so much, To-chan. I'll do everything I can to make you proud. The Jubi's voice resonated warmly, carrying a gentle reassurance. You need not try, young one. I am already proud of you. Naruko wiped away the last of her tears and smiled brightly at the towering entity she had come to see as her guardian and guide. After a moment, the Jubi settled back into a calm posture, signaling that the lesson was far from finished. Naruko adjusted herself comfortably, fully aware that her mentor still had much to share. Now, let me begin by explaining what all of your paths can accomplish. The Jubi continued, immediately capturing Naruko's undivided attention. He began with the Deva path, which allowed manipulation of attractive and repulsive forces, somewhat akin to controlling gravitational pull. Following this was the Asura path, which would grant Naruko the ability to enhance her body with advanced mechanical augmentations, such as extra limbs, defensive armor, or even specialized tools. Next came the human path, an ability that startled Naruko when she learned it enabled her to perceive the thoughts of others with extraordinary clarity. That's incredibly powerful, she thought, and the Jubi gently acknowledged her reaction. The animal path followed, granting Naruko the ability to summon an impressive variety of mystical creatures. Because of her unique dojutsu, she could even call forth legendary beings known as phoenix dragons, majestic hybrids of phoenix and dragon. Without pausing for questions, the Jubi continued with the Preta path, which would allow Naruko to absorb all forms of chakra and energy-based techniques. Then came the Naruko path, enabling her to call upon an extraordinary entity of judgment and restoration, an ability that Naruko found unusual, but fascinating. These were the abilities the Sage of Six Paths himself once wielded, though never to their full potential, the Jubi explained. But there are others, young one, even more remarkable. He then described the outer path, which granted Naruko influence over balance and harmony in life itself. Her eyes widened with awe as she listened, though she quickly refocused on the lesson. The time path was next, which offered her limited control over the flow of time. Naruko could bend moments to her advantage, whether in learning, movement, or strategy, though only within the bounds of her chakra capacity. Finally, the gravity path allowed her to shape gravitational forces, whether her own, another's, or across a wide space. For now, the Jubi held back further details, encouraging Naruko to master her foundations before advancing further. That concludes your paths, young one. And this is only half of what your Rinnegan can accomplish. I know it is much to absorb, but patience will guide you. As you train, the other half of your Rinnegan's potential will reveal itself. Naruko nodded with determination, ready to embrace the challenge. Now, the Jubi continued, your Rin Sharingan is what magnifies all these abilities. The Rinnegan and Sharingan are powerful separately, but united they form something extraordinary. Let me explain. The first ability of her Rin Sharingan was known as Amina Minaka, heavenly governing inside, a mastery of space-time techniques. With this, Naruko could create entire personal dimensions, traveling freely within them and bringing others along if they remained close to her. The second was Shin, Jukai Katan, divine, deep forest emergence, allowing Naruko to summon a magnificent divine tree, once created by the Jubi as a place of rest. Now, it could serve as a source of energy and connection to the natural world, an extension of Naruko's own strength. Finally, came the infinite Tsukiyomi, infinite moon reader, an awe-inspiring ability that projected a powerful illusion across the world, placing all within a shared dream of peace and harmony. Naruko listened intently, her heart filled with wonder. Though the road ahead was long, she knew she was ready to begin. With the Jubi as her mentor and her own unshakable resolve, Naruko's journey had only just begun. When the Jubi finished explaining the 3 special abilities, it reminded Naruko never to use the final 2 on the entire world unless it was absolutely necessary. The red-haired girl immediately agreed, promising that she had no interest in controlling or binding the world in such a way. The Jubi already expected such an answer from its chosen heir, yet it still needed to explain the powers she now carried. That is a lot to take in, Jubi-sensei. I'll do my best to train in all of them and refine my eyes, Naruko replied earnestly. Even now, she reminded herself that she would never rely only on her eyes but on her spirit and hard work as well. With the Jubi's lesson complete, Naruko gently left her mindscape. The amount of information she had absorbed weighed heavily on her mind, and as soon as she returned to reality, she drifted off into a deep sleep. Kanahagakure. Night settled peacefully over the village hidden in the leaves. Most citizens had already gone to bed after a busy day, leaving the streets calm and quiet. A few people still chatted cheerfully in their homes, while others gathered in small groups at local establishments, sharing laughter and stories. Within the Uchiha district, however, a different kind of gathering was taking place. A small group of clan members, led by Fugaku, stood together in one of the training grounds. They were preparing for a bold movement, one meant to challenge the leadership of the village. Though not everyone in the clan agreed with this decision, Fugaku still had the support of several followers as well as a promise of assistance from Danzo and his root operatives. Addressing the group, Fugaku raised his voice with determination. My fellow clansmen, although not all of us stand united tonight, remember that we are not alone. Danzo has pledged his operatives to our side. While some of our family may doubt our cause for now, I believe that in time they will understand. For tonight, we carry their hopes as well as our own. Too long have we been blamed for past mistakes. Too long has our strength been overlooked. Tonight, we reclaim our dignity. His words were strong and passionate, echoing through the grounds. Just then, Danzo himself appeared with a large contingent of root shinobi. The sudden arrival surprised Fugaku, but before he could respond, Danzo's calculating gaze swept over the scene. Fugaku, are your people prepared? Danzo asked plainly. Before Fugaku could reply, another presence interrupted them. The silver-haired Hatake Kakashi stepped forward, his expression firm. Danzo, this gathering is already known to the Hokage, Kakashi stated in a serious tone. The crowd fell into uneasy silence as Itachi, Fugaku's eldest son, moved decisively. He stood between his father and Danzo, his eyes shining with an intensity that made the air feel heavy. Father, Itachi spoke quietly but firmly, this path will only bring harm to the village and to us. I cannot follow it. Gasps rippled through the group. Fugaku's expression faltered with shock, but Itachi's resolve never wavered. At that moment, Sarutobi Hiruzen, the third Hokage, arrived with calm authority. His presence silenced even the most restless hearts. Danzo, Hiruzen said, his voice steady, did you truly think I would not see this coming? The bonds of this village run deeper than your schemes. Anger flickered across Danzo's face, but Hiruzen's words carried too much weight to dismiss. Kakashi, Itachi, and the Hokage stepped forward, standing side by side as a reminder of Konoha's unity. Their combined presence radiated strength, not through intimidation, but through unwavering resolve to protect the village. The confrontation did not end in destruction that night. Instead, it marked a turning point, a moment when hidden truths came into the light, and when choices had to be made with clarity and responsibility. Danzo tried to retreat, only for the mysterious figure he had been secretly in contact with to appear before him. Danzo, it seems you were unsuccessful, came the calm voice of the orange-masked man clad in a black cloak. His sudden appearance startled Hiruzen. Itachi turned against us, Madara, the bandaged elder responded, his words surprising everyone nearby who heard him reveal the identity of their opponent. Madara prepared to intervene on Danzo's behalf, but Itachi quickly charged toward him with remarkable speed. Meanwhile, Hiruzen defended with his adamantine staff, and Kakashi fought with his lightning technique and Sharingan, both holding their ground against the overwhelming opposition. "Come forward, child. Show me your strength," Madara declared as he clashed with Itachi. Seizing the distraction, Danzo slipped into the shadows, unnoticed, while everyone remained preoccupied. "I do not believe you are truly Madara." "Prove it," Itachi said firmly as his kunai met the masked man's. "Your belief is meaningless. Demonstrate your resolve." The masked man began, only to suddenly phase out when a blade struck through him from behind. An Anbu with a cat mask had attacked, but just like every strike before, the masked man's strange ability rendered it ineffective. Hiruzen continued battling with two Anbu by his side, while Kakashi was joined by others wearing dragon and eagle masks. Then, without warning, Itachi invoked a power that astonished many. "Susanoo," he declared, summoning a towering red guardian-like figure, skeletal in form yet only partially complete. Its hand held a glowing blade that swiftly dispersed several attackers, though Itachi's attention quickly returned to the masked man. Again, the cat-masked Anbu lunged forward alongside Itachi's strike, but both passed harmlessly through the mysterious foe. "That ability of yours confirms it, you are not Madara. He could never wield such a power," Itachi stated. The orange-masked figure scoffed but silently reassessed his plans, especially now that Danzo had vanished and his remaining allies were falling one after another. The struggle lasted only minutes, ending with Hiruzen, Kakashi, and the Anbu still standing. The masked man, realizing he was outmatched, disappeared into a spiraling vortex from his eye, leaving only the Hokage and his shinobi behind. Though weary, they were relieved that none of the chaos had reached the village itself. Itachi, Kakashi, search for Danzo. Nico, Boar, come with me. We have old business to address, the Hokage ordered. The rest remained behind to restore order. "Do not worry, Hokage-sama. We will manage the aftermath," said Uchiha Mikoto with quiet resolve. She smiled gently at Itachi. "Take care, my son." Itachi gave a respectful nod. "Yes, mother." Soon, the groups departed, and Hiruzen made his way to confront two former comrades, Homura and Koharu. When he entered with his Anbu, the elder advisor stiffened at his commanding presence. "Hiruzen, we can explain," Koharu began, only to be silenced by the Hokage's piercing gaze. "Enough. I know what you have done. You betrayed my trust and the trust of this village," Hiruzen declared with firm authority. The purple-haired Anbu and the cat mask tensed as old emotions resurfaced. Memories of Naruko, once the bright young girl many had wished to protect, flooded back. Too often, those who cared for her had been sent away on endless missions, leaving her alone. The truth, when discovered, was heartbreaking. Naruko had been cast out of her orphanage at a young age, despite false reports assuring she was safe and cared for. When her absence was finally noticed, it was far too late to undo the neglect. The revelation had left many, including Kakashi, Jiraiya, Kurenai, and Anko, devastated. Kakashi withdrew into himself, Jiraiya spent more time away from the village, Kurenai carried her sorrow quietly, and Anko immersed herself in training. The purple-haired Anbu devoted herself to rigorous discipline, eventually rising to serve alongside Kakashi and Anbu. These memories weighed heavily on Hiruzen's heart as he stood before his old teammates. "You no longer deserve the voices you once held in this council," he told them, his words final. His Anbu acted swiftly, ensuring the advisors would no longer misuse their authority. Meanwhile, Itachi and Kakashi searched Danzo's base only to find it completely abandoned. After hours of searching, they returned with the grim news. "He has already escaped," Kakashi concluded calmly, sealing away his Sharingan. Hiruzen sighed heavily. "Place Danzo in the bingo book with a bounty of 5 million ryo," he instructed an Anbu messenger. He then dismissed his shinobi to rest, knowing the coming days would be difficult as the village mourned and prepared for what lay ahead. Later, alone in his thoughts, the elderly Hokage looked out at the night sky. "Forgive me, Naruko. I should have protected you better. If only I had acted sooner," he whispered, burdened with regret, yet determined to safeguard the future of the village she once called home. Dear YouTube family, that's all for today's update. If you enjoyed the content, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support the journey. Every click helps this community grow stronger. With appreciation. Anime Octopus.